Michelle, and welcome to everybody for this Editorya event. Thank you in particular to Dawn Reeby today with us to present her books and her work. And this is one of our events that we are, in any case, presenting with the European Association of Crime Analysts. We have here Friedrich Steiner, the president of the association, today with us. And we will speak about crime analysis, but I don't want to say more because we have Dawn that will present herself first, and then also, of course, the books. So thank you very much to be here with us and enjoy this editorial.
Thank you, Andreas. A few housekeeping points. Editorya is a little bit more of a interactive session, so we welcome you to write in the chat, and also to ask any questions that you have for Dawn in the Q&A section. You can see here on your screen in Zoom. And Dawn, I leave the floor to you.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for having me here today. And I'm coming here from New Hampshire in the United States, which is a little outside of Boston. And so I'm excited to just share what I have learned and get to know you all a little bit better too. So with that, go ahead in the chat. Let me know, what part of the world are you coming from? Are you in Malta, in Austria? Where are you in UK? Go ahead and throw that right in the chat while I go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to pay attention to that chat and then just go ahead and get here started. So thank you to the European Forensic Institute and the European Crime Analysis Group for coming together to really ensure that we are providing some quality resources to all of you. So thank you for having me here today. I'm Dawn Reeby. I'm a subject matter expert in crime analysis, a keynote speaker, and I just started writing books. So it's been a little bit of fun ride for me. But essentially, what I really love doing is transforming law enforcement leaders into really balanced, highly productive individuals. So I'm going to share with you some of what I've learned along my journey. Just so you know who here is talking with you, I'm a mom of two beautiful girls. I'm a yoga enthusiast and a nature lover. I put good food into my body. You'll find me traveling throughout the world. I was actually just in Puerto Rico a couple days ago, and I'm climbing some mountains out there, some rainforests out there. I value people. I believe in doing the right thing, even when it's the hard thing to do. And I have found myself with a successful career in law enforcement analytics that feels good, is balanced, and is really joyful. So my intention here today is really give you everything that I have learned through a couple of pathways, maybe not everything I've learned, a lot of what I've learned through a couple of pathways that you can walk away with today with action steps to implement. But to help you understand really where we are in industry, I think it's important to go back to my start in law enforcement analytics. I started in 1998. I was a student in a college. I was a young teen mom, and I was a full-time intern, 32 hours a week at this police department in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is right outside Boston. We had about 300 police officers and a really progressive chief. Our chief, I'll tell you a little bit about him in a moment, but the way it was set up back then, this is over about 25 years ago, is we were all in a little box. There was a couple of us analysts in a little teeny box, and it was so small that the gang intel guy right next to me, who was also a 20-something-year-old, had to shut his desk drawer just for me to get up and go to the bathroom. It was a really tall, tiny environment. Back then, you needed a master's degree to become a crime analyst. There was no crime analysis school. There was no crime analysis training. You just needed a master's degree in something to become a crime analyst. So once I finished my full-time 32-hour-a-week slavery to the police agency for free, they then hired me on with the promise that I would get my master's degree in 1 year, which is exactly what I did. I finally felt like I was in the real world. I was around some of the greatest leaders in crime analysis, very thankfully. And so this is Ed Davis. He was the chief of police back then. He went on to be the commissioner of Boston, and he actually helped guide that movie, Patriots Day, which with Mark Wahlberg, and it really represented that 2013 Boston bombing. This chief really understood data-driven strategies even 25 years ago. I was very, very lucky to be placed here. He would allow us 20-somethings to show up in our ComStat or our monthly meetings and ask us, what do you think we should do? Where should we lead our efforts? And so I didn't realize how lucky I was until I left that agency and I started to look at, what was going on in the world of analytics. Back then, crime analysis wasn't really a complete field. It was just the beginning. And some of my friends who had internships were running coffee and not really participating in the analytics. So I was really fortunate to work alongside some folks who understood what crime analysis was and who gave me the opportunity to actually analyze it. So the early days, we had the most basic maps. I mean, this is really an effort to show you how far we've come, and where you are positioned right now is such a great position, right? So we had basic layers of maps. We would literally print out every police report that was handwritten and type it into a computer system. Now, this is an interactive session, and I'm going to do my best to take a look at the chat and make sure I'm not missing anything here. But if you have questions along the way, feel free to dive in, or comments that you want to share, feel free to dive in right into the chat, and I'll be sure to address it as we go. So many of you might have also faced this if you were in policing 20 plus years ago, where it was, a lot of manual effort, a lot of proving ourselves, a lot of trying to understand what value we could actually bring. There was no degree, there was no training like you get nowadays. I graduated with a bunch of cops in the same forensic class that they took, and I just got my master's degree with a psychology base. That was it. That's what equipped me to perform analytics. So how did I learn crime analysis? Well, I studied data every single day. That's what I did, right? And so most crime analysis jobs back then were comparable to data entry clerks. And so I knew that that's not what I wanted. And the folks around us knew that we were more than just data entry clerks. But that really was the basis of our function back then in the early 2000s. But since then, there's been so much increase in professionalizing the field, and we'll get a little bit into that, which is what this book is based off of, the best practices and so forth. So during my first 10 years in the field, I learned how to think strategically. I learned how to analyze data, apply criminological theory, and just wing it, right? I learned how to wing it very well. And so some of the greatest leaders in crime analysis industry, Christopher Bruce, Deb Peel, Stephen Gottlieb. I was lucky enough to have the first two as my personal mentors, and then read a lot of Stephen Gottlieb books. And that's really how I learned crime analysis. And so a lot of what we did was based on what we experienced throughout the day, reading reports and trying to figure stuff out. In 2008, I was hired on in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is just a little bit away from Boston, to build the first crime analysis function in the state. So this was a really big deal for me. I had learned a lot over almost 10 years of policing. So I was absolutely thrilled, and spent about 8 years building analytical capacity there, mostly tapping into Christopher Bruce and Deb Peel for sanity support and for technical support. So I did everything from connecting the databases to learning how to build buy-in from scratch. So where I started off in Massachusetts, they had an understanding of analytics by this great chief. But when I moved to other states, they really didn't. There was no crime analysis, and they were just kind of like, who's this civilian telling me what to do? So I had a lot of work to do. But during my time there, they really started enjoying the products and the results of crime analysis. And the country, the US country, started to open up to analytics. So we started to see more funders like TxDOT and NHTSA, ICP, IACA International, and of course, all you folks over here in Europe, BJA, and so forth, really taking a faster, more connected effort in analytics. Lots of money started pouring into the analytical field. We were finally getting recognized, probably over the last 10 to 15 years, as a professional community. And so I started teaching through the International Association of Directors of Law Enforcement Training and Standards, or Analyst, out in Texas. And so what started off as a couple of little presentations to police departments on how to build analytical capacity turned into this monumental effort through all of these agencies. I was so lucky and blessed to start to be a subject matter expert for ICA, teaching courses with them. For ISATAP, actually went to Saudi Arabia to teach analytics for lots of BJA, DOJ, and lots of other communities. And so why am I even telling you all of this? Really, it's to help you realize where crime analysis was just 20 years ago, and what a great position we are in now to really capitalize on all the growth that has gone on in this field. So where you take it here is up to you. I'm going to give you some tools in this training here, and then I'm going to point you to some other tools that will really help you in your growth. But you have the advantage now. You have the resources that I didn't have when I was an intern in 1998. Where we go from here as a collective, as a community, is really up to the work that we do right now. And we're at a really great position to do so because we have everything at our fingertips. So here's just a few pictures of some of my travels up here in Florida, doing some keynotes out there, in Arizona, up there in the top right-hand corner, in Texas in the bottom left-hand corner, and then of course the book launch, which I'm going to be talking to you about today. So for the last 25 years, I've been learning and growing alongside some of the best, right? I've begged, borrowed, and stolen from some of the greatest minds in policing, some of those earlier leaders that I shared with you. I've learned the theories, the applications, how to apply them to actual real life experiences, like the difference between what you learn in school and what you apply in the real life. I've learned to gain a voice, to create feedback loops, to build relationships that maximize the efforts of a civilian analyst with an entire agency. I've learned how to optimize data systems and speak chief talk to be able to sit in that room and articulate quite well. I've visited with hundreds of analysts, chiefs, executives, and so forth, and identifying what's important to them, where the gaps exist, and how we can make some improvements. I've also learned that many analysts and supervisors are doing business the hard way. They don't have the proper systems for success. They lack the buy-in. And quite honestly, a lot of them are burnt out, knuckles scraped, ready to toss in the towel kind of folks. It's just sometimes quite overwhelming when we don't have that work-life harmony. So I wrote these books to help every single analyst and leader really learn the best possible ways to have an excellent career in analytics while leading their best life, right? Where you don't have to trade career for a home life. But instead, we found a way to really merge the two. The materials in these two books have helped hundreds of agencies build analytical capacity, and you can too, wherever you are in your growth, whether you're a new analyst, a seasoned one, or you've been there forever and you're ready to go. There's lots of opportunities for every level to increase. If you're looking for a reason to spend time reading these books, I would say it's going to give you all those secrets that I've been talking to you about, everything that I've learned around building analytical capacity. Why? Because we try to do things by ourselves and we shouldn't. Books are beautiful tools. They are the minds of people that have been tucked into these little pockets, right? That we can read in just a couple of hours, take years of their experience, and apply them to our real world. Well, that's what's in here for you. My first book on the left there, called Bigger Than Data. It might be reversed, I'm not quite sure, but it's on my left. It's called Bigger Than Data, a law enforcement's roadmap to marketability, professional development, fulfillment, and joy. So this one is all about transforming the law enforcement analyst to that information management professional who brings deep value to an agency with confidence. It's really based on the actions that you do, the confidence that you build, the buy-in strategies, the growth-oriented piece, right? So it provides new and inspiring analysts the mindset tools really needed to become the best version of themselves, to understand that work-life harmony piece. It provides solutions for proactive, data-driven strategies in the most impactful and sustainable way. And it really shifts the culture of law enforcement to produce excellence in analytics with unison of leadership of self as your top priority. So the first book is really that feel-good book, that book that really gets you centered on the bigger life, because I wasn't. For a very long time, I focused only on analytics, and you can't do that. You have to have this work-life harmony. So the book teaches analysts how to be analysts, and not just the analytical part, but the building relationships and all the things that you need, as well as leadership of self. The second book that we're going to walk through today is called Building Crime Analysis Legacy. And, this book provides that comprehensive guide for all levels of public safety to really improve their systems of building analytical capacity and optimizing an analytical function in an agency. So it's going to provide you with those clear pathways. Each chapter is literally a checklist for you to say, is this done? Is this done? Is this done? As you are building your analytical capacity. So it's a compilation of those 25 years of me learning, but also of what Chris Bruce, Deb Peel, and everybody else learned along the way. I just buttoned it all up into one location for you. And so the problem that this book addresses, well, far too often agencies just kind of whip together a crime analysis function, right? They say, we want crime analysis, and then you're in charge of it, lieutenant or civilian or whoever you are, and you don't even know where to start, right? And it's data-driven strategies is this hot word. And so we have funding to put these people in place, but we don't give them the tools and the systems that they need to actually do so. So they want to meet accreditation standards. They maybe want to get a grant that is needed. They want to drive decisions, and they know that everybody else is doing this, but they just don't know how. Right? So this book is for agencies large and small, looking to build that function properly, with ease and in a sustainable manner, because you're not going to be at your police department forever, right? You're not going to be at your district attorney's office or your sheriff's department or wherever you are. You're not going to be there forever, and you're going to want to leave a strong legacy behind, right? You're going to want to have folks jumping from your level when you leave, right? And so you don't want them to have to start all over. So this book really talks about the infrastructure that's needed to build that legacy, that strong legacy. When you do that in your agency, you also do that for the field as a whole, right? So it talks specifically about retaining quality analysts, strategies for data-driven efforts, like how do you get your data? How do you get access to your data? How do you develop data quality strategies? Like, so the analyst isn't the person cleaning the data, right? How do you recruit and retain quality analysts so they're not jumping from agency to agency? What collection tools must you have at your agency? How can you predict? How can you optimize outcomes and impacts? What's your purpose, right? So this book breaks it all down and gives you a step-by-step on how to do it. It also goes into leadership quite a bit. I believe that every single crime analyst should be a leader in their agency. So the first book talks about dealing with you and yourself, and the second book is really about your role as a leader in your agency. So I've noticed that a lot of supervisors and chiefs and executives will grab this Building Crime Analysis Legacy book because it is a tool. But if you're a smart analyst, you want to know what your chiefs are thinking. You want to know what your executives are thinking. This is the book that you want to really be able to talk with them on that larger level. Okay. So it really provides the guidance that you need. And, yeah, that's it. It provides the guidance that you need. So why even build a crime analysis legacy? Well, we want, as a professional environment as a profession, to create sustainable data-driven efforts. We don't want to be doing the piece of papers that we were doing before, because that's not sustainable. We want to keep up with the current technologies. We want to provide actionable opportunities for our officers, our detectives to succeed. And the only way that we can do that is if we have the proper systems in place, including buy-in, feedback loop, and so forth. And so it's important that you understand why you're in this profession overall. So we are not going through every single chapter of this book today. We simply don't have the time to do that. But I wanted to give you an understanding of what this book actually does entail once you grab it and take a look at it. So it does give you some detail around the big picture, some of those bigger agencies, the growth of crime analysis in chapter 1. Chapter 2 really dives into, creating the vision of your unit. Like, why would we create a vision? Most agencies don't create visions of their unit, and this is a critical step for success. That I've written blog articles, done YouTube videos. I mean, creating the vision is primary. That's the first thing that happens. And the book walks you through the process that you can go through to actually create that vision. I teach a class through the International Association of Crime Analysts, and that is the first thing that they do. They receive a bunch of videos to go look at what crime analysis could look like, and then they create their vision to make that happen, right? So this book walks you through this process. It goes through the roles and responsibilities. So what is intel analysis versus tactical versus strategic, and which one is best for your agency, and how to decide that. It goes through these policies and procedures, these written documents that of job descriptions and policies that are just really, quite honestly, lame. And so it writes them for you and helps you attract the analysts and the folks that are going to be most beneficial and helpful in your agency. All right. I see that a chat is appearing here. Let's see. How would you describe the job as a crime analyst in recent years before, comparing the times to before? In my opinion, after many years of being undervalued, analysts are breaking away from the older image of an evaluator and tool specialist into the new role as a problem solver, thinker, and communicator. It doesn't happen in every agency, but we are in a good way. Absolutely. So Sam talks about the evolution, and yes, we were paper pushers back in the day, statistic people back in the day, and now we've evolved into this analytical environment where we are professionals. We are considered the foundation of police agencies. The chiefs and executives are seeing us as the fuel that they need to make proper, effective decisions, and then to measure those decisions. Now, as analysts, we just need to build our own mindset in that. We need to know that we are of value, right? So the past 20-something years of analytics has completely shifted. The book does talk a lot about this, about how back then it was like a secretary, right? And which there's nothing wrong with secretaries. They're fantastic, right? But the analytical role wasn't considered, as a key value in the agency. Now there is so much funding, so much energy, so many, so much interest in quality analytics. This field is blowing up, right? So you're in the right field if this is the field that you are in. So the book walks through what data you should be collecting and how you can create systems of data quality from your vendors to your supervisors and everything in between, being results focused, turning data into actionable insight. And we're going to walk through some examples of what that looks like for you today. Establishing influence and buy-in, a key factor in analytics. Efficiency strategies, how you can become more efficient as an analyst and how to prioritize, right? How to recruit and retain analysts, specific things that you can do, specific things that you can implement are all in the book. Leadership and crime analysis, and this is really what Sam is talking about here, is how do we, take that shift in policing and maximize it and optimize it. And then finally, building legacy. So we're not going to do all of these today. We're going to dive in, give you a little taste of what it's like, because we have about a half hour left, and I want to make sure that I give you my last 3 lessons learned. So let's go ahead and dive on into it. Okay. So big picture, and this is a little bit what Sam was talking to. Agencies understand now that data drives decisions. So this isn't something that this in the public sector, or the private sector rather, data is everything. And so now the public sector is starting to realize how important data actually is, and they're starting to see the value, not just the value, but the need for these analysts. The pays are increasing, the respect is increasing. I mean, this has really been a transformational time in policing. So several partners, and there's just a couple here: NHTSA, the BJA, the Commission of Accreditation, Federal Highway Traffic Safety, Governor's Highway Safety, the IACP, all of the groups that are with us today, the European Forensic Institute, the European Association of Crime Analysts, TxDOT, the Sheriff's Association. All of these folks, the Obama administration had a ton of money put toward data-driven strategies. This is the field. This is the field to be in. And it's up to us to professionalize ourselves in a way that really stacks the odds against us, right? This is an exciting time in policing, and you're right smack in the middle of it, right? Okay, so the purpose of crime analysis. I'm going to walk through, just so we're all on the same page, what crime analysis actually is, so that if you've been at an agency for a while and you're not doing these things, it's going to click a bell to you. Or if you are doing these things, you may turn around and say, I'm on the right path. But I want to get us all on a certain level together so that we can then talk about exactly how to make some improvements. So crime analysis, we're essentially taking information from our records management system, our reports that come in, our 911 calls or police calls, like someone calls the police, our arrests, our prison releases, our probationers, citizens reports, our fusion centers or state level or larger level intelligence gathering folks, organized retail crime, demographics. Analysts are taking information from all of these different entities and more and synthesizing it in a way that makes sense. So the traditional way was, you go to roll call and you read what happened the night before and you apply a strategy based on what happened the night before. The predictive analysis way is to look at all of these over time and start to see what our patterns and trends are. So let's talk about that. So some crime is random, unpredictable, and unconnected. Maybe an argument in a bar erupts, right? Maybe there's a couple of neighbors who are fighting with each other, or a drug deal gone bad. Maybe you leave your laptop somewhere and somebody steals it. That's the random stuff that crime analysis is less interested in. What we're most interested in is that targeted, predictable, and connected crime. Maybe the robber who holds up clerks on Friday night, a group of kids who smash windows every weekend, that repeat auto theft individual, a rapist who stalks women specifically. We are looking for patterns. It is a lot different than just statistics. And let's talk about why. So what does this actually really say? We have burglaries by year. If you can tell me what this says, go ahead and plug it into the chat. What does this actually say? So I gave this presentation, this very slide, in front of a bunch of chiefs. And I said, chiefs, are you asking your analyst to do this? Are you asking them for these numbers, right? And most of the chiefs raised their hand. And I said, shame on you. And they kind of looked around like, is she talking to us like this? And I sure was. And here's why, right? So I said, how can we use this information to drive decisions? We can't. All we're saying is there was 155 burglaries last year. There were 156 burglaries this year, right? And I said, so instead, we should be asking ourselves, what are the trends? Is this seasonal? Did somebody return from the community, right? Did someone return from the community and go on a spree? Are there any hotspots, predictions? How many cases were cleared by arrest? How many were the residential burglaries up or down, commercial up or down? Is this a national trend or a regional trend? These are the things that we want to know about our data. We don't want to know just statistics. Numbers are not enough. So if you are only giving your department numbers, I'm going to ask you to think a little bit deeper. So here's an example, again, a presentation that I shared with the chiefs. I said, okay, have you said arbitrarily we want our burglaries to decrease by X%? And many of them raised their hand. And I said, I want you to think about this a little bit differently. And I'm going to encourage you to think about this a little bit differently too. So instead of just saying we want burglaries to decrease, I'm going to ask you as an analyst to break those burglaries down. There's a chronic problem of drugstores being burglarized for painkillers. When we break it down further, we identify a low-income housing development with multiple burglaries, right? And then we find another pattern that there's a sudden increase in daytime burglaries in residential neighborhoods. Maybe we're looking at 3, 6, 8, 9, 10 weeks of data, maybe even 10 months of data, depending on the size of your agency. And then we found that there's a repeat offender, a heroin addict who commits multiple burglaries to feed his or her habit. We find that there's a small section here of vacant houses where copper wire or piping is being stolen. Then we find that there's another section here where there's multiple burglaries in a city park, right? Where the equipment shed keeps on getting broken into. As analysts, we want to, break this down. We want to be able to say, okay, delete that problem, develop a strategy to address this hotspot, develop a strategy to address the pattern that we're having here in residential breaks, develop a strategy to identify that repeat offender and to stop him from offending. Develop a strategy that digs into this chronic problem of copper piping. Develop a strategy that identifies this hotspot. And then we are left with that random stuff only. So using data to drive decisions. Doesn't that look a lot better than statistics? So how does this apply in the real world? Here's an example of what many analysts do. We have a hotspot on a map and we say, go there, right? We think, we're using a map, we've done something right. Well, the reality is this just is not enough information, right? So instead, we want to break it down just like we did in that chart over there. And we want to say, okay, what's happening in this little hotspot? Well, there's purse snatchings on weekend nights. There's aggressive panhandlings between certain hours by a repeat group of people. There's a late night smash and grab at shops, right? There's car thefts from vehicles parked on the street during those dinner hours. There's assaults between patrons at local bars on game nights. And then there's that random stuff. So now we can begin to develop strategies. For instance, the assaults between patrons at local bars, right? Well, as an analyst, you can go ahead and get all of the game nights by simply Googling them and studying that particular problem and telling your officers to go there on game nights. The data drives the strategy, and then we can assess if our strategy worked. So there are a lot of contributions to public safety. Crime analysis can, and I say crime analysis, but it really is interchanged with strategic analysis, intel analysis, and so forth. We can reduce social harms and crashes. This is your role. This is your purpose. I'm telling you what your purpose is, right? Assist in this crime reduction by disseminating actionable and timely reports. You identify patterns and trends and really provide the food that your agency needs to digest in order to make quality decisions. You improve operations, filling any gaps. You improve transparency with your communities, right? Who doesn't want to develop positive relationships with their communities? It's a big topic right now. So really, there's so many benefits to crime analysis. There's a whole training on all the benefits to crime analysis, but I'll stop there because I'm assuming you know a few or you've been inspired with a few more right now. I'm going to walk you through a couple of the key pieces of the book, and then I'm going to share with you top 3 lessons I learned, right? So data accessibility, data integrity is a really big deal. If you don't have quality data, then you can't analyze. You're going to end up spending most of your time cleaning that data. If that's a challenge for you right now, I want you to get out a pad of paper and write down on that piece of paper, your top data quality issues, right? So in order for us to analyze data, we need clean quality data. So this cycle that we go through is collecting the data, identifying, hey, I'm curious about this data, analyzing that information, kicking that information out, that response occurs, and then the feedback happens. The officers on the street or the commanders come back and say, yes, this worked, this didn't, or there was information available that was not in the report that we can contribute to a more thorough analysis, right? So you can find all this information in your CAD reports, in your police reports, your crash, your We have here in the States something called field interrogation reports, field information rather reports, where it's not a real crime, but it's information that we want to know. So you can look at all of these data sources and compile them, but the reality is you just need access to your data. This is one of the biggest problems we have in policing. And in this article by Christopher Bruce, he walks through why analysts need access to your data. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of police departments who have zero access to their data. And what we do is we work with the vendor to get all of those tables that you see with the globes next to them, the earth, right, the globe, we get them access to their data so that they can actually study it, right? So a lot of folks just simply don't have access to their data. So we, provide a ton of training on how you can access your data and how you can specifically through this process called open database connection. There's a lot of systems out there that are improving. There's a lot of records management systems that are making it easier for you to view your data. I haven't seen any vendors who have given me everything that I need, so I'm sure that it's going to come along, along in some time, but really analysts need access to the data. So if you're an executive listening to this right now, I want you to go give your analyst access to the data. If you're an analyst listening to this right now and you still have to manually type everything, this should be your priority. And the book really goes into not only gaining access to your data, but the tenets of data integrity and how to really ensure that the data that you have is of the most quality. The book walks through specific policy level, database level, supervisory level, and administrative level techniques that you can implement to gain access to your data that in a quality way. And it is the responsibility of that entire agency, not just the crime analyst's responsibility. So data is key, as I'm sure you may know, and if you don't have access to it and you're trying to analyze it, but you spend all your time cleaning it, go to that section of the book, go to that section of all of the book bonuses, which I'll share with you, and get this right first, okay? All right. I know, I'm pretty strong-headed when it comes to data. This is something that I've seen in at least 100 agencies this year alone, right? And we're only a couple months in where they simply don't have access to the data. Or quality data. There's a chapter in there on results-focused products. Far too often, I see analysts giving a bunch of statistics like you saw earlier. So really, you got to avoid this. You have to provide quality results focused. Every single product that leaves you should have a purpose to it. And if somebody is not taking that document and doing something with it, then stop doing it. Right? And so you want to create products that are not just statistics, but really dig in deeply. What are my repeat locations? What are my suspicious activities? My top social harm locations, my top crash locations, and variables related to those. Open warrants, traffic patterns, environmental factors. Get out of your office, analysts, and go to the location and see what the environment is like, right? And pull some of that information in. So this is a whole training topic. The IACA does a great job on that as well. There's lots of training available through your group here as well, through the European Forensic Institute, through the European Association of Crime Analysts. There's lots of training available to you. I'm going to walk you through some product examples that'll hopefully inspire you. And these are all found, most of them are found, actually even more are found in the book. All right. So this one here, again, every single product has to focus on what are the results. The results of this, what do you want to have happen? Well, I want to turn maybe the most dangerous apartment complexes into the most sought after, safest living spaces in the city, right? So you identify the locations and you zero in on those locations and you focus in on those locations. So what would be the result of something like this? The result here is to develop deployment strategies relative to emerging patterns and trends that help guide deployment strategies. So this is an example of threshold analysis using mapping and gridding that says, hey, that's the red spot. That's what's happening in that area. That's new, that's emerging, that's continuous, whatever it might be. The results of this proactive piece here, I love this piece because it identifies gaps in overtime services and makes budget improvement recommendations. So the green that you see there is the engagement activity, traffic stops, park and talks, that sort of thing. The red and blue represent crashes and crimes that are impacted by visibility. So before, this agency had the green all over the place, the enforcement all over the place. And when they looked at crash and crime that would be impacted by visibility, those specific crimes, they then decided to layer their engagement activities on top of that to reduce the amount of overtime. So the purpose of this is quite impactful. This is called threshold analysis, and the result that we're trying to achieve here is to identify patterns and trends and be a problem solver, giving your agencies solutions to the problems. So as you can see, there's a column there at the end that says notes. We want to be doing something like this on a regular basis. What's the average? What's the usual range of activity in this time period? How does it compare, the current year compared to the average? And then why? What are the notes? Dig into the data and tell your agency why. Maybe, here in theft from building, there's a decrease in health club thefts. Maybe you build in an analysis here around domestics or whatever it might be. This threshold analysis tool, there's a full training on how to actually get these numbers. There's templates, there's all kinds of tools available to you, but this is something that analysts should be doing on a weekly basis, if not every day, for yourself to see what you should be studying, okay? Another great product, you probably already produced this, is a series alert. Again, the result. If I'm not making myself clear, look at the result that every product is producing. So the result here is to provide actionable opportunities for officers and detectives to succeed in case clearance, prevention, and apprehension. So here's the crime series, and up there in yellow or orange is what you should do. So don't be afraid to tell your folks what they should do, and then provide the background information to help them understand why. This is an example of a link analysis, and I actually give all of these products I share in a class that I teach down in Florida, where it's a National Institute for, it's like a 8-week residential program for leaders, for lieutenants and above. And I'm brought in there for 3 days to teach predictive analysis. And what I teach them and what I show them are these images, these analytical products, because I want them to start to get excited about what they can be doing and where they currently are. And then I give them the tools to bridge the gap. So if you're getting excited, if you're saying to yourself, wow, I really want to produce those maps that she's showing or those analyses that she's showing, I don't know how to get there, that's okay. That can be the goal, to learn how to get there. If you're already producing them and you just need a little bit of tightening up, that's okay too. There are tools, there are trainings, there's availability for you to, opportunities rather, for you to really learn how to do that. So the result of this particular analysis is understanding the network relationships, right? So you can identify additional suspects. I was an analyst in New Hampshire, and I sent out one photo to an analyst out in Massachusetts. And I said, hey, I know you do a great job with link analysis. I know that there's 3 people in this organized retail network. I have a picture of one of them who we've identified. I have pictures of the other 2 who I don't know who they are. Do you have any link analysis that you've done on this individual? Sure enough, that analyst, Carol Fitzgerald, had done the analysis, the link analysis, and she provided me with who those 2 people were. So this is a great tool for intel, for gang, for organized retail crimes. This crash analysis is a wonderful opportunity to analyze specifically what's going on deep in a particular area, right? So instead of just putting a dot on the map, analyzing what's happening within that dot will help you determine, is a left turn, should we put up a post that says no left turn? Where should we deploy our officers specifically, during what times, for what purpose? So the analysis here really breaks down that intersection and shows the agency how to use the data to drive much more efficient and effective decisions. And I love this analytical report. This is a way for us to analyze the strategies that are being implemented, what's working, what's not working. This is something that we deliver at our ComStat meetings, which are meetings once a month or every other week, where you look at what was the problem, what you implemented, what was the impact, and do we have any next steps? So the result here is to identify ongoing and emerging issues and problems and share key recommendations to fix them. So the last little map that I'm going to show you, or product that I'm going to show you here, is the same image that you saw before, but the concept here is to assess the impact, assess the process. Did it work? As an analyst, you're not just analyzing, you're assessing the results of the strategy that was implemented. So make sure you have some assessment tools. And so this map here, as you recall, shows the assessment of enforcement and traffic enforcement in this case, compared to crashes and those felony level crimes. So the key here in this chapter is all about getting results focused, and we talk about why that's so important. So creating buy-in is a big challenge in police agencies across the globe. I've seen this everywhere, and there's some very specific things that you can do. But if you find that your analyst is underutilized or burnt out, right? Does your agency value the analytics? Maybe the products are not being used, and you want to really improve the flow of communication. The book walks through a specific series of videos that were implemented, along with the language for each video that you can steal, beg, borrow, do what you need to do, because I did the same thing to create these, right? And so we worked through what is crime analysis, what is a feedback loop, what are the benefits of crime analysis, how can we help detectives, how can we help accreditation, how can we help patrol, and so forth. And these 2-minute videos, some of them were 30 seconds, some of them were 2 minutes, right? Help the agency understand, from a large level, because you can't be everywhere, train everybody, right? So we built this into our accreditation standards that every officer had to review these videos. So these are available to you as well. And the final piece of this, before I get into my 3 strategies, is thinking like a leader. The book walks through how to think like a leader, the purpose, leadership of self, high performance people and environments, and efficiency systems. And it walks you through exactly what you need to do. Once you've done the rest, exactly what you need to do to be thinking like a leader, to up-level yourself and up-level the entire industry. And of course, we don't like to start anything from scratch. I have borrowed a ton of things, templates from many analysts throughout the world. And so there's a bunch of book bonuses that gives you what an implementation plan looks like. You don't have to design one yourself, right? It gives you examples of vision statements and job descriptions, examples of buy-in campaigns like I just showed you, examples of CompStat or your monthly meetings, accountability meetings, product assessments, analytical strategies, how to measure them, podcast links. If you're not listening to podcasts, you got to. There's a lot of great podcast leaders out there. I've provided you the best books and the best podcasts for you to start to dive into, to educate yourself. Portfolios, how to design a portfolio. There's templates in there for you, analytical procedures, and everything in between. All of that is available to you in the book bonuses. So once you grab the book, there'll be a link in there. You click on the link, and then you download all of these book bonuses. You don't have to start from scratch. Nobody should have to start from scratch. All right, go ahead in the chat. If you have questions about what we talked about so far, you can go ahead and chime on in. If not, I'm going to go ahead. Well, I'm going to go ahead anyway. I'm going to go ahead with the 3 lessons that I want to make sure you walk away with in this training today. Number 1, ditch the dream and do. When people give these kind of speeches, they usually tell you about the trainings you need, the certifications that will make you a better analyst, the lessons that you need to learn before you contribute at a monumental level. I see analysts attend a ton of trainings, and you should. I see analysts sit in the back and observe and think and dream and never actually do the thing, right? Maybe they don't have confidence. Maybe they think they're not ready yet. Maybe they think I might be wrong, and I don't want to look bad, and I don't want to, create distance. The reality is the world's not going to tumble down if you make a mistake, right? Get up and do. I'm here to tell you, make your mark, find that inner voice, sing very loudly, embrace failure. Heck, I tell my girls this all the time, seek out opportunities to fail, because the more opportunities, the more that you do, the more that you're going to learn how to succeed, right? Dream big, create the vision of what you want to be true. Things happen twice. They happen once in the mind and once in reality. So think big, dream big, but don't stop there. Take action. Really, the folks who dream a lot end up staying exactly where they are, right? While they're busy dreaming, the really happy, successful analysts have dreamt and now are doing. So I encourage you, if you want to be a great analyst, start analyzing. If you want a high-paying, invigorating job, a career in analytics, then go get one, right? People often become paralyzed because they have no idea what their passion is, or they lack confidence regarding their own contributions. Y'all are talented. Trust me, you want to be where you are if you weren't. The truth is, it doesn't matter. Just move forward and do something. Keep seizing the opportunity, staying open to what is new, but not getting paralyzed by all the new technologies and the variety of new that's out there. I wanted to be a successful analyst, a business owner. I wanted to do yoga every day. I wanted to be outside with nature. I wanted to have high quality relationships with my kids, and this was my dream. But in the beginning, I didn't think it was possible, right? How could I be stimulated at a well-paying job and be healthy when I'm working through my lunches all the time and everything else, right? How could I secure my retirement, get paid enough money to feel not stuck at a job, but valued at that job, right? And that's really how I thought back then. I just worked all the time, right? So if that's you, pay attention to this. Years later, I hired a business coach. I discovered an entirely new way to build analytical capacity. And I created my own coaching business, the first ever in the field of analytics for both analysts and supervisors. And now I help those folks create that work-life excellence, right? I posted on Facebook, my first online program one day. Like, I took an action. I did it. I posted, I was scared. I was like, oh, I'm running a program. And then I had my first consult with a group of people one by one. And I said, yes, I'm doing this. And then I found that my first group was actually full. The group was full with people who were wanting change in that virtual online program. And I've done that 100 times over ever since. And the key here, the point here is that I took action, and so should you. So what you want to be true will happen for you if you dream about it, and then if you take action. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, anyone who tells you that they do it all is just a liar. Because it's just you and I here, it's our fireside chat, I'm going to tell you the truth. Many analysts get burnt out. They feel undertrained. They have a lack of confidence. They feel overwhelmed. They're producing a bunch of numbers instead of real quality analysis. There is a trade-off, and I want you to recognize it. You cannot push 100% in the time of your time in the field and then also 100% in your home life. Anyone who tells you that they can do it all, they're lying to you, right? My point is, you can wake up feeling powerful, engaged, and energized, right? And then another day you can wake up feeling full of fear and terror and overwhelmed because you've given too much to the field and not enough to yourself, right? The key really is to recognize when to push. And there are times you need to push in the field, and when to retract and restore. Restoration is the key to success. Having a you outside of policing is a key to success. There has to be space for restoration and for renewal. I went 10 years without taking a vacation because I thought that I needed to be in the field all the time. That's the wrong approach. I went years without taking a lunch, years without, looking up from my computer. You don't have to do this. You don't have to bring all your work home. There are going to be pockets in your life where you do need to do this, right? But it shouldn't be the constant. Otherwise, you're going to end up with chronic fatigue, and you're going to end up really regretting your choice to be an analyst or an analyst supervisor. So Become the best version of you by focusing on multiple aspects of your life as a career, focus. Definitely make strong goals, but also make strong goals in your own personal life and bring in the concepts of restoration. So lean into your holistic self, take steps forward in your career with leadership of self as your top priority. And the final lesson I want to share with you, lesson number 3, is my glass ceiling lesson. Here, when I started in this field, there was no degree in crime analysis. There was no specific education around mapping or tactical analysis, no belief by officers that we were of any value, really. How many analysts before you had to hit the glass ceiling before the crack appeared, right? Rippling it, sending out thousands of hairline fractures. I'm sure Sam, I'm sure you were part of that, breaking that glass ceiling, right? The early folks of crime analysis, we studied those cracks, right? We studied those cracks so that you could make it through the glass ceiling with no cuts, no bruises, no bleeding. Right? I wrote these books so that you could take them and run with your career, run from a higher level, right? And not just from that data entry 1998 intern level that I was at. The world of policing has changed, and we want to start you off on the highest level, the highest foot, so that you can even bring it to the next level. Run from a point of greatness and become excellent. Your predecessors have created the foundation for your success, and it's really up to you to fly. Think about it. Look around this virtual room, right? It's filled with enriched minds. We have the Institute of, we have the European Forensic Institute. We have Sam and all the analysts, that make up part of that group there. We have eager minds. We have current analysts, new prospects of technologies, automation techniques, all kinds of funding emerging right now. You are positioned so well. You got to get excited. You got to, really understand that you are in a very wonderful place in policing. So Shonda Rhimes, she was a Hollywood reporter for women in entertainment. And she delivered this speech around a bunch of women who had really broken their own glass ceiling. And I'm going to share it with you. She said, with my own little twist, she said, think of them, heads up, eye on the target, running full speed ahead. Gravity be damned. Tuck the thick layer of that glass ceiling, keep running full speed, crashing into that ceiling and falling back. Analyst after analyst, each one running, each one crashing, and everyone falling. And now it's your turn. There's no glass ceiling. All the holes made before you by your predecessors gives you clear view as to what's on the other side. There will be a little gravity wearing you away, but you won't have to fight as hard as people have over the last 25 years. You simply have to study the best practices and take action. Decide where the view is most soaring, right? Create the vision in your mind and create that target, pick your spot and run. This was a group effort, right? A special thanks to all the analysts and leaders who made such strides in analytics and those who've created the pathway for you. And thank you to you for showing up, whether it's live or to the recording of this, to make change, to share your gifts, and to get better every single day. So here's some contact information for you should you want to connect. My website, how to find my best-selling books at excellenceinanalytics.com, a YouTube page filled with training, LinkedIn, Instagram, or just shoot me an email and let me know how you're doing. And I'm happy to help you in any way I can. I'm going to hand it over to you folks now. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and hand it over. Oh, I do have a question here. It says, how much do you think is important, the education at university level, undergraduates and graduates, to prepare future crime analysts? Oh gosh, I am thrilled that there is education available to you that simply was not available to me. I love learning. I was a professor at an adjunct professor at a university, pouring what I knew in the field into those college students. I have hired coach after coach to help continue me learning. I've, gotten my bachelor's, my master's degree. Learning is a key to success. And the fact that you have the tools and the organizations and the resources right in front of you, take full advantage of all of the training, all of the education available to you. It sets your bar higher so that what you create starts here and you leap off. Right? So if you're in a program right now, or you're thinking about a program, get educated. And then when you're done that program, continue to get educated, continue to be part of the training, the efforts. In fact, be an instructor, share with others your skills and talents so that we can learn. I teach all over the globe, and you bet that I still go to trainings. You bet that I still participate in learning and growing, because why bother? Why bother if you don't? If you're not learning, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're not living. So why bother? Hopefully that answers that question there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Don. Thank you for your contribution and your experience. I feel that you are giving to and submitting to us with a lot of energy, and I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if we have a question. We are doing our best to create new programs in crime analysis that are very important and quite new for us, in particular in this part of the world. So in Europe, crime analysis is becoming a field really important and appreciated. But in terms of study program to medium high level, there's not a lot. So we are doing our best, and soon we will be able to give our contribution. And of course, we hope to have you in our team for this new experience. So
yes,
thank you very much again. Thank you very much again. I don't know. Probably we have Michelle another question.
Yes, we have another question from the audience. Should I read it out? It is from Dennis, and he says, considering the recent buzz on generative AI popularized by ChatGPT, what are your thoughts on the impact of it for crime analysts? That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And this is not new. I've been with a lot of agencies who said, oh, we have, a particular program, right? And so we don't need a crime analyst anymore. And, and what I found when I've worked with those agencies is they didn't really realize the thinking, the experience, and the, relationships within the agency and outside of it that contribute to the analytical field. So when they thought that a computer would produce the analytics, the computers help, but they're not the analysts. And I would say similar with AI, as we become more and more sophisticated with some of our computerized programs, it's up to us as analysts to maximize those resources to help us provide the solutions to our agency, not to replace us.
Thank you, Dawn. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I agree with you that the AI tools are really just to help us rather than be the analysts themselves. Cannot agree more. Mm-hmm. Do we have another question from anyone? Let me have a look. Okay, no, I think that's it. Dawn, thank you so much for your very, very inspiring talk. We really appreciate it. And we will be posting it on YouTube very shortly as well for everyone who missed this session live. So thank you.
Thank you very much, though, again, for the time you spent with us and you dedicated to us. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon in our team.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a nice day. See you soon.
All right. Thank you all. And thank you for the work that you are doing in the analytical community, the energy, the time, the resources that you're pouring in to this profession. I deeply appreciate, and I'm so thankful to be part of.
Thank you, Dawn.